may soon come across the border and lead to an outbreak in our state.
U.S. Senator John Cornyn on Monday told fellow senators that the New World screwworm is only a few hundred miles from the Texas border, and it could cause billions of dollars in damages to the cattle industry if it crosses from Mexico.
The case of New World screwworm was reported less than 400 miles south of the U.S.-Mexico border.
The parasitic fly was first reported in Mexico in November and is making its way north. That's despite efforts by the U.S. government to stop it, including U.S. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins last month announcing during a visit to South Texas that the U.S. is spending over $8 million to launch planes from a Hidalgo County airbase with sterile male screwworms to be dropped over infected zones in Mexico to stop the spread. If these flies cross the border, they could devastate the cattle industry, hurt wildlife, and even infect people and pets.
The New World screwworm lays its eggs in the wounds of warm-blooded animals, particularly livestock. The larvae then burrow into the openings, creating infections that, left untreated, can cause animals to die within a week.
There's no vaccine, and that makes ranchers like Zapata County Judge Joe Rathmel worried.
But now the major concern is hopefully the screwworm won't make it our way. It would place a big hurt on any ranchers trying to handle cattle down here. And certainly wildlife would be susceptible to large infections, and certainly a large, especially the male bug population would be in peril if it does get here.
Rathmel says South Texas ranchers still must test cattle for fever ticks, but screening and treating for screwworms is more than they can handle.
Reports of the flies now only 300 miles away from the border is certainly bringing attention.
Texas is the #1 cattle-producing state. Cornyn says if the New World screwworms arrive on U.S. soil, it could cost the country's economy $3.7 billion. Sandra Sanchez, Border Report.
Carolina say an unvaccinated child. North Carolina say an unvaccinated child has a case of measles, which is linked to the outbreak in the upstate. The North Carolina Department of Health says the child had visited places in Spartanburg County. We're told they developed symptoms before Christmas, but have since recovered. This is the second confirmed measles case in North Carolina this year.
First and most immediate need for a robot is to be able to manipulate these threads and insert them into the brain. So the implant is kind of like this little puck of the secret sauce active electronics, and the electrodes are these tiny little flexible threads that each at the very end have multiple little electrodes that if you get those electrodes next to a neuron, they can record what that neuron is doing.
The nature of the device that we're implanting and the way that we're implanting it allows for minimal reaction of the brain tissue to our device to increase the lifetime. In order to do that, the devices are extremely fragile.
The threads that we insert that contain the electrodes are tiny, sort of on the order of 50 microns wide, 5 microns thick, 20 millimeters long. And so if you take one of them and sort of toss it into the air, it'll sort of float off like a piece of hair. And those tiny little flexible hairs are too small for a human to handle, even with tweezers, and that's where the robot comes in. Computer vision and software, essentially high reliability software, is really important. We've gone from not really being able to track the moving brain, which is critical for humans because the human brain moves a lot, to having this OCT-based system that essentially gives us this 21 hertz real-time view of a 3D volume of the brain that we're looking at. What you're trying to do is very fine computer vision tasks and movement tasks to grab these threads. It's an extremely hard engineering problem.
I would say the next big goal for the robot would be to make it so that there's minimal neurosurgeon interface, that a neurosurgeon can walk in and talk to the patient, make them feel comfortable about the procedure, walk them through exactly what's going to happen, and then essentially click go. And the robot will be able to figure out exactly what the specific topography of the patient will be, target the areas, and take the surgery from the patient coming in and sitting down to them walking out of the door that same day.
If we make this so automated and safe and fast that anyone can get at it. Even the idea of really fast keyboard and mouse for myself that I don't need to use my hands for is like super alluring.
I'm excited for the robot to help a human patient restore someone's motor function that they lost. That would be super cool. Over the last 3 years, Neuralink has felt like it has grown from a garage project into a real product. Not only do you get to work on robots, but you also get to interact with other people who don't typically use robots.
I knew nothing about neurosurgery before coming to Neuralink. I can come in as a robotics expert and know that there are neurosurgeons here, neuroscientists here who essentially can act as my knowledge base for neurosurgery and neuroscience. That's why I think it's the place to be.